Big Perk's here for this. Hey, Perk. But Max, I'm going to start with you. I know you got some feelings on that. Was Shaq ever the best player in the NBA?
Unless you have amnesia, of course. Is this a trick question? Shaq, do me a favor. Tweet at the show. Just answer this question yourself. Because I know what Kobe and Shaq used to say. Kobe best, Shaq most dominant. But let me make it simple. And Stephen A. picks up on Shaq most dominant, not the best. Oh, well, he's not the most skilled Duncan, or Kobe had more skills. In 99-2000, Shaq was the MVP, 30 points, 14 boards, and 3 blocks a game. He was the Finals MVP 3 years in a row. 3-time Finals MVP. By the way, he and Kobe played on the same team. He was a 3-time Finals MVP. But let me cut through all the nonsense. In those years, let's just take 99-2000. If we said, okay, list the best players in the NBA, the only position that Shaq would be in is 1. So everything else is semantics. You'd have Shaq 1, and then either Kobe or Duncan 2, and then the other 3, and then KG or whoever 4. But Shaq would be 1, and that was not the only season he'd be 1 on the list. In fact, the guy who had the most kind of undisputed claim to being the #1 guy in the NBA, the best player in the NBA, between Jordan and LeBron's prime. I mean, Kobe was that. Duncan, you could argue, was that. But the guy who had the #1 most undisputed claim was Shaq. That was the dude. How are we going to sit here and pretend that didn't happen? Of course Shaq was the best player in the game. Well,
first of all, my apologies, because I thought that we were talking about in terms of their playing time and whatever. 1999-2000, Shaq averaged 29-7, and he was clearly in his prime, most dominant, no question about it. He was unbelievable. From that point forward, it was Kobe, period. And when I look at Tim Duncan, and how spectacular he was. After Shaq won the MVP and they won their championship that year, the very next year, Kobe averaged 28.5. I would remind you that Shaq was shooting 52% from the free throw line. I would remind you that Shaq was getting bigger and bigger, and Shaq played when he wanted to play. Now, be very clear about this. Shaq was clearly the most dominant. I think Shaq is the most dominant force we've ever seen other than Wilt Chamberlain.
In our lifetime.
In our lifetime,
yeah.
Okay? That's the most dominant force. And I'm not throwing any shade whatsoever. But not only did Shaq defer to Kobe in key moments, Shaq deferred to Kobe in the fourth quarter. Of course. Shaq deferred to Kobe at the free throw line. And Shaq, even though he could defend, especially if you challenged him, he'd shut you up real quick. That's not something he really had to do. So when I'm looking at Shaq overall, and I'm thinking from a skill set, the man was 7'1", 330 pounds he walked around with, all right? He was mobile, he was agile, his footwork was big time. He could do damage when he wanted to. He'd be in the open court finishing off fast breaks. We get all of that. But at the end of the day, when you have a teammate, the likes of Kobe Bean Bryant, okay? I'm sorry, I don't feel that way. But again, the mistake is mine, not yours, because I wasn't really talking about 1999-2000. I thought, I thought you was looking at it basically
during their time together, but I'll dispute that too.
All right, you can dispute that, but I'm telling you, Shaq is unstoppable, the most dominant force other than Wilt Chamberlain we have ever seen in the history of basketball. But in terms of the best, from a skilled perspective, I mean, I look at Tim Duncan, I look at Kobe Bryant, his teammate.
He's not more skilled than those guys. I'm just saying, rank them. 1, 2, 3. Shaq, not just in 99-2000. I mean, Kobe was incredible. And of course, he was the closer. He's the guy who could handle the ball, create his own shot, clutch player, the whole thing. But Shaq, the following year, after those numbers I gave you 29, 13, and 3 blocks. Again, basically the same numbers. And by the way, he was the Finals MVP, not just in 99-2000, but in 2000, 2001,
no answer to him.
2000, 2002. He and Kobe played on the same team. He was the Finals MVP.
Perk get in here, guys. Perk, get in on this. Where are you? There you are.
I'm right here, Molly. Molly, I just want to know what's going on today. I've been watching First Take all morning, and I just want to say this right now to Stephen A. and Max. Stay off the weed. I don't know if it's the OG being passed around, the purple. I don't know the strands that's going around over there at Seaport Studio right now. But some of the things I've been hearing this morning has been blasphemous. Okay? But look, Stephen A., I got to agree with Max on this point. Because for those 3 years, not only was Shaq dominant, He was the face of the NBA. I can't think of no other guy that was having an imprint on the NBA like Shaquille O'Neal. I mean, he was averaging during that time 27 points a game, 11 rebounds, 57% shooting. No, I wasn't there yet. I got in at 2003. But what I'm saying is, Stephen A., when you look at Shaq, and this is what people undervalue him at. When you talk about a skill set, Shaq footwork, Shaq ability to maneuver at that size, that's a skill set. Like, yeah, he wasn't going between his legs 1,000 times and doing all that, but you talk about the footwork that he had, was able to face up, spin off you, snatch the screws out the rim, the little soft touch turnaround that he had with one hand towards the baseline, soft touch jump hook. His passing ability is underrated. The way he was able to push the ball up the floor is no other player. Like, Tim Duncan was good. He was great. Kobe Bryant was great. But Shaq was on another level in those 3 years. And like, yeah, but I know that, right? But they felt under Shaq. And when Shaq came into arenas, he opposed his will. It was polarizing when he stepped in foot on the court. The opponents were terrified of him. So I got to say, not only he was the most dominant, but he was the face of the NBA in those 3 years.
Those three.
I never questioned whether or not he was the face of the NBA. He
was the best player.
He was the face of the NBA.
No, best player. Best player.
He was clearly the most dominant. I get that. Shaq and I have talked about this. We've had some disagreements, but not many, because he understands what Kobe Bryant brought to the table, and he understood that at 330 and a spin move. Remember, Shaq didn't spin without them damn elbows, scaring the living daylights out of people because you don't want to get hit by that brother. I mean, there was a lot that went into it.
Shaq was a good passer too, by the way.
Involved brute force, and I remember his daddy, God rest his wonderful soul, the Sarge, sat up there with like this. Shaq out there trying to play around him. He said, "Come here, what the hell you think you doing? You get your ass down in that low post, and you make you show them what the difference between a boy and a man truly is." He said, and his daddy was like this. Want to hear about no damn skill? You drop step and you bring it home. Right. That's what you do.
Right. I know what you
understand.
What you're reacting to. This all came up.
It's just particulars.
This came up because I was talking about Giannis yesterday. That's what I mean about a big. When you're a big, I know why you put your eyeballs on Shaq and say, but that's not the most skilled dude. You need to put that dude with another great player who can take over in the fourth quarter and blah, 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 like Wade or Kobe. That's my point. Shaq in those finals, those 3 years, 38 and 17, average finals MVP. 33 and 16, finals MVP, average. 36 and 12, finals MVP,
how many
average.
Dunks, and how many dunks were those?
Oh, I mean, go stop him.
Right.
Stop him.
But can we take,
go stop him. You know what Yao Ming said?
330.
You know what Yao Ming said after the first time he played Shaq?
Yeah.
He said it was like playing a meat wall. A meat wall. That dude was immovable.
And he was and Yao Ming was 7'6", with tree trunks for legs. I'm saying with tree trunks for legs, and even he said that. So what is some mere regular human being supposed to do?
Can we take the focus off Shaq for a second?
And they didn't even call fouls. If they would have called the game right with Shaq, he'd average 50 points.
How's our listening skills? Let's take the focus off Shaq for a hot second. Perk, I want to come to you because I hear you have some issue with the Bruce Brown conversation we had a little earlier. So please indulge us.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Look, I was listening to the show and I heard Max talk about the offense of the Brooklyn Nets in Game 3. He was talking about James Harden missing. I heard Stephen A. talking about Bruce Brown. But you know what? I didn't hear them talk about Steve Nash. He was the reason that they lost this game down the stretch when it was a possession by possession. I don't blame Bruce Brown. I blame Steve Nash for putting him in that position because he wasn't supposed to be in that position. When you get late in the quarter, when it matters the most late in the game in the fourth quarter, you got to go to your guys that get paid the big bucks. And you have two of the best scorers, two of the greatest scorers of all time on your team. You spread the floor, you get one side cleared, and you go 1-3 pick and roll. And you 1-3 pick and roll the Milwaukee Bucks to death, and you tell them to stop it. You get the switch. You get Kevin Durant on the low block with Drew Holiday guarding him because Drew Holiday hasn't had success guarding Kevin Durant. And look, I know it works because I watched Kyrie. I watched Kyrie Irving do it with LeBron James when I was in Cleveland. I watched Russell Westbrook do it with Kevin Durant when I was in Oklahoma City. Steve Nash blew that game, and I hate that Bruce Brown is getting all this critiquing and all this, unfair criticism.
Well, first of all, I would appreciate it if you tell the truth, because you said you was watching and listening to the show, okay? And I did bring